Whiteboard Physics A-Level Lesson 63. More about stress and strain. I don't know why this is the title, because it's not got very much to do with stress and strain at all. It's more to do with energy, but hey-ho. Let's look at energy for a second. So last lesson, we introduced the idea of stress and strain as geometry-independent replacements for force and extension. And remember, I was talking about tensile stress and tensile strain, extension. So let's just draw some quick graphs, one next to the other. A little bit of space for us to annotate, perhaps. There we go. And the graphs will be very similar, of course. They will be similar because if they're describing the same material, the only difference between them is components related to geometry. So tensile stress and tensile strain. Okay, so what did we have? We had on a force extension graph, we might have something that does this. It's a straight line, and then it stops being straight and it curves. Just like that. And we know that the area is the energy that's transferred, the work that's been done when we have extended it. So we know the area here is equal to the work that is done, and we linked that to the energy stored. But we've got to be careful with that because it's only the energy stored if we're extending below the elastic limit. Once we've extended it beyond the elastic limit, if we remove our forces, we unload the material, we end up with some permanent extension, a permanent deformation. And so the work done in extending the object is more than the energy we get out once the object is released. So this area here is less than this area here. And so area work done in extending. And then in orange, we could say energy released when relaxed. So where's the rest of the energy gone? Well, it's gone into causing changes in the material, which has a heating effect. You move atoms past each other, then van der Waals bonds might be made and broken, and all of that has a heating effect. And so this difference between them is the energy lost in heating. So difference is energy lost is perhaps the wrong word. Let's say transferred to thermal energy stores. That's what's happening. So we do a certain amount of work to load up, and then when we unload it, because we've gone past that elastic limit, which remember doesn't have to be exactly the same place as the limit of proportionality, because we've got an extension that's exceeded the elastic limit, we get less energy out, energy has been transferred. Fine. Well, let's just look at the tensile stress versus tensile strain graph then. What's the area under this going to be? And it's the same idea, so I won't bother with the curve and talk about differences in energy, because it's the same idea as we've already had for the graph on the left, but let's say we've got some value of stress that we have here and some value of strain that we have there, just like that, then the area is going to be equal to the half, because it's a triangle, multiplied by that stress, multiplied by that strain. And remember that the stress is going to be the force, tensile force, divided by the cross-sectional area, and the strain is going to be the extension divided by the original length. And the area multiplied by the original length is called the volume. So this is force times delta L divided by the volume. And half F times V, as we discussed quite a few lessons ago. When was it? Was it the lesson before that? Might not have been. That was all about density, wasn't it? So when did we discuss this? Energy, 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 energy. Maybe we didn't discuss it this time. Oh no, there it was. All the way over here, we talked about the area being a area of a force versus displacement graph. Extension is displacement, and therefore half times F times delta L was the energy stored in the spring. So that's the energy stored in the spring divided by the volume. So the area is the energy stored, and I'm going to use the letter W for this, divided by the volume. It's a sort of volumetric energy density. So area equals volumetric energy density. And I'm not using E because we use E for Young's modulus. Did I put that in the notes last time? No, I didn't. Let's say that is equal to E. That's not energy. That's just the symbol we use. I've put it in the notes for last time. So volumetric energy density, so that's equal to the work done in stretching it, and then we'll get that energy back out as long as we've extended it below the elastic limit, divided by the volume. Fine, okay. But some materials are very interesting, like rubber isn't straight up to the elastic limit at all. Rubber's very interesting indeed. So let's have a look at rubber. Rubber. So if I take my piece of rubber and I extend it, and for simplicity, I am just going to use force versus extension, because then we just get work done rather than volumetric energy density, which is slightly easier. So let's just have force that we are loading on it versus extension. For rubber, it does something very interesting indeed. When you load it up, it does that. That's while we're loading it. However, when we unload it, it does. Oh, that's badly drawn. It does that. It follows a different curve. So this is unloading. And actually, I want to label that somewhere else. Let's label it down here. Unloading. And the red one is loading. Okay, so what? Well, so the area is the amount of energy transferred. We already know that. So this area under here is the total energy transferred in stretching. And maybe I should leave it coloured in, although unloading becomes very difficult to see. I wonder if I can, wonder if I can make the orange bit come out to the front. Can you change it and bring it to front? Send it to back? No, it doesn't look like you can. Okay, it doesn't matter. So we've got our unloading underneath and a loading on top. So that area that's in yellow, as I've drawn it there, and I'm going to have to draw this in yellow, that area is equal to the work done loading the rubber. Now that's yellow on white, so you probably can't see that very clearly. What am I going to do about that? Let's make it orange, because that's slightly easier to see. That's easier to see, isn't it? But then we have, and I'll use the blue highlighter pen for this, in blue, we have this energy that is released in unloading. So this area here, all the way up there, that is going to be the area of that is going to be, now you can't see because what the area is. These notes aren't great, are they? Right, scrap that. Let's change the notation. We don't need to highlight everything. Actually, I will. Right, I'll scrap that. If you're rubbing stuff out and redrawing it, you're bound to get annoyed. So let's do this. Area, work done. So this is the area under red line. So area under loading curve. I've got the wrong color orange. Under loading curve. There we are. I've finished faffing. I think I've got a notation that's going to work now. Is equal to the work done loading the rubber. And then we can say that the area under the unloading area under the unloading curve is equal to energy transferred or work done when unloading. So that is the energy that you could say was stored because we were able to get it back, i.e. strain energy stored. So what about the other bit? What about the area that is here? Well, that area, I need to use some symbols here, don't I? So the area under the loading curve, let's call that AL, and area under the unloading curve, let's call that AU. So this area here, which is equal to AL subtract AU, that is equal to the energy transferred to thermal energy stored. i.e. wasted. That is the energy transferred by loading and unloading the rubber. I really hope that that has come through clearly enough. I'm no artist at all, so hopefully that is clear enough. Loading and unloading and so on. So that is true for rubber. Polythene doesn't do that. Polythene, you get a loading curve that isn't that different from rubber, but then it just goes straight down to here. So you get much less energy out when you unload the rubber, unload the polythene. So why is that? Because the polythene, the molecules slide past each other quite a lot, and they don't do that in the in the rubber, they stretch out and then coil back up again. So it's all to do with what the molecules are doing in the materials. We don't really want to go into that in the A level. So how do we determine the areas? How to determine areas? We count the squares. And we've done this before with motion graphs, but I'll make a note of this now. We count squares. And every, try and write that right, every part square counts as a half square. So we figure out how many squares we've got, and then we need to multiply that number of squares by the work done represented by a single square. So multiply total squares by work done represented by area of one square. And how do we know what that is? Well, that's just going to be the force multiplied by the extension for one square, i.e. force times extension. I'll run out of room. I.e. force times isn't very clear, times extension for one square. Lovely. And I think that's really all I need to talk about. We covered Young's modulus last time. You can't calculate Young's modulus for rubber because there's no straight part. You need a straight graph to calculate Young's modulus. Tensile stress, tensile strain. If you're ever measuring Young's modulus, you'd use something like Searle's apparatus, or you could just stretch a cable across a desk and measure the extension for different forces, but then also measure the original length and diameter of the wire. But these are required practicals, and I've done separate videos on required practicals. So I think we will leave that there. That is the end of our section all about materials, so it's not a long section. And we will move on next lesson to electricity. Ooh, very exciting. I hope you join me then. Bye-bye.